This is a reflection by Emeka Jarrett of Cell 16. St. Faustina's experience of retreats. The word retreat, in the context of the diary of St. Faustina Kowalska, means a period of seclusion for the purposes of prayer and meditation. Reviewing the diary, St. Faustina had several retreats, and she understood retreats as essential opportunities to deepen her relationship with God through solitude, prayer, reflection, penance, and spiritual renewal. She viewed these retreats as times to withdraw from the distractions of everyday life and focus entirely on God's will. During her retreats, she often experienced profound spiritual encounters and personal revelations from our Lord Jesus Christ, which deepened her understanding of divine mercy and reinforced her mission to spread the message of divine mercy. Examining some instances of her retreat experiences can give credibility to the importance of retreats in our spiritual journey. In February 1931, St. Faustina Kowalska arrived at the convent in Plock, Poland, for a spiritual retreat. This retreat was meant to be a time of deep prayer and reflection, during which St. Faustina sought to grow closer to God and strengthen her relationship with Him. She spent her days in solitude, contemplating the mysteries of faith and praying for guidance in her spiritual journey. One evening, while in her small cell, St. Faustina was alone in quiet prayer. As she knelt before the Lord, a sudden profound presence filled the room. She lifted her eyes, and there, standing before her, was our Lord Jesus Christ. His appearance was breathtaking, with eyes full of love and compassion, and rays of light shining from his sacred heart. The rays were striking, one pale, symbolizing the water of baptism, and the other red, representing the bloodshed during his passion. The two rays seemed to pulse with life, reaching out and filling the room with divine warmth. At that moment, Jesus spoke to her with tenderness and authority, instructing her to have an image painted based on what she saw. Paint an image according to the pattern you see, he said, with the signature, Jesus, I trust in you. I desire that this image be venerated first in your chapel and then throughout the world. Diary entry 47. Stunned by the vision, St. Faustina felt overwhelmed by the importance of the message she had just received. Jesus continued speaking of his mercy and the need for the world to trust his love and forgiveness. The rays, he explained, symbolized the boundless mercy flowing from his heart, offering salvation to all who will accept it. Though unsure how this request could be fulfilled, St. Faustina knew she had been chosen for a mission far greater than she could have imagined. With reverence, she wrote down the vision in her diary, understanding that this experience was a divine calling. As the retreat continued, St. Faustina spent hours in prayers, reflecting on the significance of the vision and her role in spreading the message of divine mercy. This encounter in Plock marked the beginning of her mission to promote God's mercy to the world, a mission that would ultimately inspire millions. The retreat in Plock was not just a time for spiritual renewal. It was the beginning of a profound journey that would lead to the establishment of the Divine Mercy devotion, changing the lives of countless people for generations to come. Another retreat encounter was during a quiet afternoon in the convent at Wallendal, a small village near Warsaw. St. Faustina sat in deep meditation, seeking to connect with God. As she prayed, a sudden wave of fear and doubt washed over her. Satan, sensing her vulnerability, whispered insidious thoughts into her mind. The priest won't understand you. He won't have time to hear everything you need to say. How will you explain all this to him? Diary entry 173. St. Faustina felt her heart race and her confidence waver, thinking how much easier it would be to speak with her previous confessor, Father Bukowski. The unfamiliar Jesuit priest she was about to meet seemed daunting. Amid her struggle, St. Faustina remembered Father Bukowski's advice. Take brief notes of the lights sent to you by God during retreats and give at least a brief report on them. Diary entry number 173. Clinging to his guidance, she began to jot down the key points of her spiritual experiences. When she finally met the Jesuit priest, she handed him her notes. To her relief, he listened attentively and understood her deeply. The fear and doubt instilled by Satan melted away, replaced by a renewed sense of peace and trust in God's providence. St. Faustina realized that even in moments of temptation, God's wisdom and support of her spiritual advisors would guide her through. The last example of retreat experience occurred in Warsaw. While preparing to embark on her third probation, a significant step towards the perpetual vows of St. Faustina. 3 sisters, including St. Faustina, gathered in a room at Mother Margaret's, their hearts filled with anticipation and reverence. The other sisters were undergoing their probation in the novitiate, but this moment was uniquely intimate for these 3. Mother Margaret, a wise and gentle soul, began the session with a heartfelt prayer. She then explained the profound significance of the third probation and the grace of the perpetual vows. As she spoke, her words resonated deeply with St. Faustina. Suddenly, overwhelmed by the weight of God's grace and her own perceived unworthiness, she began to cry out loud. The other sisters, taken aback by her sudden outburst, rebuked her and questioned why she had broken down. But Mother Margaret, understanding the depth of St. Faustina's emotions, came to her defense. She gently explained that such a reaction was not surprising given the intensity of the moment. At the end of the hour, St. Faustina felt a compelling need to seek solace. She went before the Blessed Sacrament, feeling like the miserable of wretches. Kneeling in humble supplication, she begged for God's mercy to heal and purify her soul. As she prayed, she heard a divine voice, tender and reassuring. "My daughter," the voice said, "all your miseries have been consumed in the flame of my love, like a little twig thrown into a roaring fire. By humbling yourself in this way, you draw upon yourself and upon other souls an entire sea of my mercy." Diary entry 178. Tears of relief and gratitude streamed down St. Faustina's face as she responded, "Jesus, mold my poor heart according to your divine delight." Diary entry number 178. In that sacred moment, St. Faustina felt a profound transformation within her soul. The weight of her miseries lifted, replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace and divine love. She knew that her journey towards the perpetual vows was not just a personal endeavor, but a path that would draw God's mercy upon many souls. As she rose from her knees, St. Faustina carried with her a renewed spirit, ready to embrace the grace of her perpetual vows with humility and unwavering faith. The flame of God's love had purified her heart, and she was now prepared to serve Him with a deeper understanding of His infinite mercy. Understanding the retreat experience of St. Faustina lays credence to the fact that retreats are an essential part of our spiritual journey. Whether we realize it or not, we carry out some form of retreat in every facet of life. For example, when we review our performance at work, this is a form of retreat. We reflect on what we have done. We look at areas where we have not done well and make plans to improve our performance. The same applies to our personal finances. We review our finances to know how we performed against our budget, taking notes of areas where we have overspent and planning to make the necessary cuts going into the future. It is highly imperative that retreats are a must in our spiritual journey to attain spiritual clarity and growth and align with God's will. One of the profound elements I took from one of St. Faustina's retreats was how she used her own suffering and illness to help others by offering her physical pain and spiritual struggles as a form of prayer and intercession for the souls of others. These days, when an individual is afflicted with a disease or suffering, the norm is to ask God for healing or a miracle, irrespective of God's will. Taking a cue from St. Faustina, I realized that if it's God's will, suffering can be used as a form of prayer and intercession for others, which is astonishing as it is a selfless act of love for people you don't even know. We know retreats are essential for spiritual growth, but how can we ensure regular and fruitful retreats? Set a clear purpose. Establish the retreat's core reason, whether deepening one's relationship with God, fostering personal reflection, or specific spiritual growth. A well-defined purpose guides the retreat experience. Create a structured schedule. Design a balanced schedule that includes prayer, meditation, reflection, spiritual readings, and times of silence. A mix of activity ensures both rest and engagement with the spiritual journey. Incorporate guided spiritual direction. Whether through a retreat leader or priest, offering spiritual direction provides insight and helps participants process their experiences more effectively. Include communal prayer and worship. While individual reflection is important, communal aspects like Mass, prayer services, and group discussions foster a sense of spiritual community and shared experience. Ensure regular follow-up. After the retreat, follow-up opportunities such as support groups, prayer partners, or ongoing spiritual guidance help maintain the momentum and integrate retreat experiences into daily life. Confession and Sacrament of Reconciliation. Include the Sacrament of Reconciliation allows participants to experience spiritual healing and renewal, deepening the retreat's impact. Be open to God's surprises. Encourage participants to stay open to unexpected insights or experiences. A fruitful retreat often involves moments of surprise, grace, and spiritual breakthroughs. We are lucky to have 2 yearly retreats at Advent and Lent in the cell. Can we resolve to follow these retreats or have retreats often, at least yearly? Saint Faustina, please pray that we will realize the value of retreats and do them often. Jesus, I trust in you.
Jesus, I trust in you.